Right now inside a supermax prison in Colorado, a man who once controlled one of the most powerful criminal empires in the world is waking up alone in a concrete cell barely larger than a parking space with no sunlight, no human contact, and no way out. That man is Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán, and the place where he spends every single day of his life is ADX Florence, a facility so extreme that inmates say it changes a person permanently. But here's what most people don't realize. El Chapo's daily routine inside those walls is far more controlled than it sounds, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this place was designed to contain people like him, because what happens between 6 a.m. and lights out inside ADX Florence will completely change how you see what his life has become. ADX Florence is considered the most secure federal prison in the United States, and many experts call it one of the harshest prisons in the world. It sits 90 miles south of Denver, buried deep in the Rocky Mountains, built for one purpose: holding people the U.S. government considers too dangerous, too powerful, or too connected to be kept anywhere else. Since opening in 1994, it has been housing some of the most notorious criminals in modern history, and when El Chapo arrived in 2019 after being extradited from Mexico and sentenced to life plus 30 years, the facility drew global attention like never before. This was the man who had escaped from 2 maximum security Mexican prisons, once through a tunnel dug directly under his shower floor, and now he was placed inside walls from which, according to the warden, escape isn't just difficult, it's considered impossible. Which raises one question: what does a single day actually look like for the world's most famous drug lord inside a prison engineered to erase everything that made him powerful? Because the morning routine alone will tell you everything about why this place is in a category of its own. Every morning inside ADX follows the exact same pattern, and El Chapo is no exception. At 6 a.m., the lights switch on and the day begins whether he is ready or not. No alarm to ignore, no way to ease into it. The cell he lives in is roughly 7 feet wide by 12 feet long, smaller than most bathrooms, containing a concrete bed with a thin mattress, a desk bolted to the wall, a combined toilet and sink, and a shower that cuts off automatically after a few minutes. The walls are poured concrete painted plain white. The fluorescent light overhead is controlled from outside. He cannot touch it. There is one window, 4 in wide and 4 foot tall, cut at a specific angle so that inmates can see only a sliver of sky, not enough to determine where inside the building they actually are. Not long ago, he owned private jets, luxury vehicles, even a personal zoo. Now he lives here in a room where every single detail was deliberately designed to remove power, choice, and identity from whoever occupies it. And this is the part most people can't wrap their head around. El Chapo spends at least 22 to 23 hours inside that room every single day. What those hours actually look like is next. Here's the reality: inmates at ADX Florence, including El Chapo, spend between 22 and 23 hours per day locked inside their cells with zero human interaction. There is no general population, no dining hall, no shared space of any kind. Meals arrive through a slot in the cell door 3 times a day. Standard institutional trays, no choice, nothing personal. Breakfast around 6:30 a.m., lunch at noon, dinner in the early evening. Former inmates describe the food as repetitive and cold more often than not, and for a man who reportedly had personal chefs preparing meals during his years running the Sinaloa cartel, this is a complete shift from everything he once considered normal. After breakfast, time barely moves. He is permitted a small television with restricted channels, approved books, and the ability to write letters. Though every single word he writes and every word addressed to him is monitored, translated, and reviewed by government officials before it goes anywhere. Nothing leaves or enters that cell without being seen first. It sounds like he at least gets 1 hour outside the cell, but what that hour actually looks like is not what anyone pictures. For 1 hour each day, sometimes less, El Chapo is let out of his cell for what the prison officially calls recreation. That's not what most people imagine. ADX Florence uses individual recreation cages, small steel mesh enclosures where each inmate exercises completely alone, unable to see, speak to, or touch another person. Sometimes indoors, sometimes a partially open concrete space with a strip of sky above, but always isolated, always sealed off. There is no basketball court, no weight room, no open yard. For that 1 hour, he can walk a small circle, do push-ups, stretch, or simply stand in silence. Then the door closes and the remaining 22 or 23 hours begin again. This repeats every single day with almost no variation week after week, month after month. Former ADX inmates and human rights researchers have documented what this level of confinement does to the mind over time. Chronic anxiety, a distorted sense of time, difficulty forming clear thoughts, and a depression that builds gradually and does not lift. El Chapo has been living inside this system for years. What makes ADX different isn't just the confinement, it's the silence, and that silence is a weapon in itself. ADX Florence is often one of the most psychologically extreme prisons ever constructed, and the reason is not just the physical conditions, it's the silence. No prison yards full of noise, no chaos, no movement. The facility operates in near total quiet, and that quiet is deliberate because silence removes the ability to influence anyone, and influence was the entire foundation of El Chapo's power. For decades, Guzmán operated through communication, through trusted lieutenants, coded messages, encrypted phones, and the kind of loyal network that takes years to build. His power depended on his ability to connect with people and direct action from any location. ADX strips all of that away methodically. He is held under Special Administrative Measures, SAMs, the most restrictive communication status in the federal prison system. Phone calls are extremely limited and fully monitored. All correspondence passes through government review. His own legal team has described serious difficulties reaching him. The man who once ran a multinational cartel from inside a Mexican prison by bribing guards and issuing orders through tunnels now has almost no ability to reach anyone in the outside world. But what happens to his family connection, his wife, his daughters? Can they even reach him? The answer is harder than most people expect. His most recent wife, Emma Coronel, was arrested by U.S. authorities in 2021 and pleaded guilty to drug trafficking and money laundering charges. She served her sentence and has since been released, but her ability to communicate with Guzmán remains severely limited under his SAM's restrictions. His twin daughters were still infants when he was first captured and have grown up without him in any real sense. Under special administrative measures, family visits are either heavily restricted or prohibited entirely depending on the current security assessment. When visits are allowed at all, they happen behind thick glass with no physical contact, tightly monitored, and cut to a strict time limit. For someone whose entire life was built around family loyalty and personal bonds, this enforced disconnection is considered by experts to be one of the most damaging elements of his sentence. Not dramatic, not loud, but slow and damaging over time in a way that compounds with every passing year. After years of this, the silence, the cell, the total disconnection, what do we actually know about his condition today? People with limited access to Guzmán since his arrival at ADX Florence suggest a man who has aged significantly and declined faster than time alone would explain. His legal team has described him in court filings as showing signs of mental deterioration, difficulty sleeping, episodes of confusion, a general decline they connect directly to his conditions of confinement. They have argued that the level of solitary confinement and sensory restriction El Chapo endures crosses into cruel and unusual punishment under the U.S. Constitution, a legal argument raised by other ADX inmates as well. The U.S. government has consistently rejected these claims, maintaining that the security measures are entirely justified given his history of escaping maximum security facilities and his proven ability to run criminal operations from inside prison by corrupting staff. That history is very real. His 2015 escape from Altiplano prison, walking out through a mile-long tunnel his cartel built over months directly beneath his cell, remains one of the most remarkable prison breaks ever recorded, and it is a significant reason why American authorities have placed him in conditions designed to eliminate every variable. But one question still remains: how does a man who once controlled an empire actually endure 23 hours of lockdown mentally day after day after day? Researchers who study the long-term effects of extreme confinement describe ADX Florence as one of the most controlled psychological environments ever built, not because it inflicts physical pain, but because it removes everything that gives a person a sense of who they are. For El Chapo, a man whose identity was entirely constructed around power, fear, loyalty, and the ability to make decisions that affected thousands of people, the daily routine at ADX does not just punish the body. It slowly breaks down a person's sense of self. Every day is identical to the last. No seasons visible through the 4 inches window. No relationships to maintain. No decisions of consequence to make. No proof that the outside world is still moving. Former ADX inmates describe a feeling of complete suspension, as if time has stopped, as if reality has become unreachable, as if the person they were before slowly becomes a stranger. For a man who spent decades outrunning governments, operating across continents, and building a criminal organization through sheer force of will, This kind of permanent stillness is the complete opposite of everything he ever was. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán built one of the most powerful criminal organizations in history, escaped from 2 high-security prisons, and evaded capture for decades while the world's most powerful law enforcement agencies hunted him. Today, he wakes up alone in a 7-by-12 concrete room in the Colorado mountains, with no power, no voice, no way out, and with no clear end to the sentence in sight. ADX Florence did not just take his freedom. It took the one people like him never expect to lose, which is the ability to have any real impact on the outside world. And whether you see that as justice, or whether it raises real questions for you about how far punishment should go, one thing is clear. The daily life of El Chapo inside the most secure prison in America is as far from the legend as it is possible to get. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. And the next story is even more intense.